Today I want to show you some of my books from my book collection. With the advent of the internet, there doesn't seem to be the need, or some people probably think desire, to own a physical copy of a book. But I've always loved searching for a new book or buying a new book. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be as many around to buy, and that's possibly because of the internet. And plus you can create ebooks as well. So one of the ones I'd like to start on first is by Fechin. And some of the books I'll go through, you would have heard of their name, you probably even own a copy of their book. But these are the artists that I think inspired me greatly and still do inspire me greatly, and to a large amount and a high level. Fechin was probably more of a figurative painter, and I think that's what I love of his work the most, is his figurative work. I think Russian born, went to America at the age of 42 and then stayed in America for 42 years. And he has influenced his generation and generations beyond. But well and truly worth collecting. And I think one of the artists that did influence, or was influenced by Fechin, was Richard Schmid. I've spoken about him and I've had the chance of meeting Richard, but I think in his Alla Prima, Everything I Know About Painting, he mentions a certain number of artists. And when I saw Fechin, I thought, never heard of him. So I managed to get a copy of the Fechin book. But I also do have Richard's books from the 70s, which Richard Schmid paints the landscape, or Richard Schmid paints the figure. Both really groundbreaking books, I believe, for the time. And even the reproductions are excellent for the 1974, 75, 76 period of printing. So that's a really marvellous thing to add to your collection as well. And just remember, there are many books that Richard has done, and I think there's a few different ones of Fechin's and a few other artists that I'll talk about. But these are the ones that I felt have been best for me. And you may think, oh, know of the artist, but I want to buy this one. So that's all up to you as well. Then we have Dale Marsh, a local artist born in Queensland, not far from where I live, but he lived in Melbourne and then lived on the New South Wales coastline as well before moving back to Queensland, I think about 30 years ago. Quite influenced by Monet and the Australian Painting School as well. Rather lovely work. He's done 2 books on painting, and I think if you can get it, either one, you'll be really pleased. I think Dale's painting book came out in I think about 1984, 85. So I've had a copy ever since I started, and I can actually call Dale a really good and close friend as well, and a bit of a mentor on the side. I did study a little bit of drawing with him as well. The other guy that I'd love to mention is Tom Browning. I think I got his book around about 1995, 94. But for me, his work is so strong, not only with drawing and composition and everything, but his tonal values are just marvellous, and his tonal control. That's why it was a really great thrill when Tom commented on one of my paintings saying, boy, you've really nailed those tonal values. And I thought, oh boy, that's what I got from Tom's work. So it shows how influence does become absorbed, and then we can utilise it. Not that I'm trying to really ever paint like Tom, Fechin, any of the artists, but it's that amalgamation, that grouping of ideas that becomes the artist that we do, along with our own time spent with the brush and studying and thinking about art. Then we have My Kind of Country by Douglas Badcock, New Zealand-born painter, probably New Zealand's greatest landscape painter. Very loose, painted quite big, most, if not quite a bit on site. Once again, he has a few books, but My Kind of Country is probably my favourite. A lot of the mountains in New Zealand, and just magnificent stuff. Couldn't rate his work any higher for its just confident brush mark. It really does have an energy, and I think that's what plein air painting does. It gets that physical desperation of time, and it translates into your painting beautifully. We shouldn't forget a good drawing book. Arthur Guptill, I managed to come across a copy of his, which I think was produced in about 1959, might have been a little earlier, because mine is the 2nd edition. I think every artist should have at least one drawing book to have as a guide, have as almost a standard. And that's what a lot of books and the internet can do. It can keep imprinting a certain level of work that you need to reach. And it is like a positive reinforcement, that really good type of brainwashing, that you're just regularly, constantly flooding your mind with quality work. Diversity as well is always good. But Arthur Guptill, and I believe he was one of the founders of Whisson and Guptill range of books. So that might ring a bell for some people. Then Robert Wade. Robert did put a lot of DVDs and videos, but I do love his books as well. And you think, oh geez, why am I buying books on watercolour? And once again, it doesn't really matter the delivery service. It's the product or the end result. The artwork that's created is the thing of beauty, the thing of that I'm aspiring to, well, you know what, one day maybe to be able to equal. Not sure about ever outdo, but we live and dream. So, but no, Robert Wade, lovely guy. We taught together for about 10 years. And he was just a magnificent artist and mentor as well, who gave me some really great information along the way as well. So I do really treasure my Robert Wade paintings, but also the books that I've got. One that's actually a compilation book is Golden Summers. It may be a little harder to find. It was a 1985-86 travelling exhibition throughout Australia. And it's more of a catalogue, but it's well written as well. Where the author does explain quite a bit about the composition and the historical benefit as well. So I had that book in 1986 or maybe 87, and I would finish painting for the day and I'd flip through studying the paintings, looking at the painting, thinking, what made that painting work? Was it the light? Was it the colour? And I think that's a great lesson to always keep asking yourself whenever you're studying good or great work. And then of course I've got just the one Sargent book, but once again, he almost sort of goes without further or much more explanation. John Singer Sargent, we cannot sort of get enough of his work. And sadly I did miss a really great exhibition in Boston by about a week or two this year, but I have managed to see quite a bit of his work over the years. And once again, just exquisite work, super high level. When we think high level, I always like to think of Edward Sago. I first was introduced to Edward Sago's work by a good family friend, an artist friend of my father, John McVeigh Brown. He would bring the latest books from England after he was returning home to see family and friends, and he would show them to my father and I. So I knew of Sago's work in about 1988, 89. He was one of the rare painters, probably a little bit like Fechin, even though they may sort of sometimes drift, you know what, they're putting so much information in, but they still maintain that lovely cohesiveness and brilliance. The other two I'd love to talk about is David Curtis, British-born painter, watercolour oil painter, just an absolute master craftsman, so dedicated to getting the best out of himself and really doing his best work as well. And I can't go past Trevor Chamberlain as well. I've got a couple of his watercolour and oil painting. I think Trevor's work is one of those painters that was able to simplify beautifully, but once again, still have them looking really classical and sophisticated. Once again, he has quite a few different books as well. And I do have quite a few more books, but we may need to save that for another day. But use this as your external information and education as well. That even though we're drawing and painting and thinking art, nothing like really delving deeply into the reading and getting even the information from Richard Schmid's book on edges and colour and all that as well. They're just so packed full of information. Hope you enjoyed today's little presentation. All the best. Bye for now.